volunteer youth leader took a group of teens on a springtime hike to see the new life that was coming out. And upon hearing the sounds of these baby birds, he fell back from the group a little bit so he could find the nest. Unfortunately, he lost track of his footing and he slipped over the edge of a cliff. But on the way down, he took hold of this slender branch of a tree, and he's hanging there by the branch of this tree, and he starts to pray. And suddenly he heard a voice from heaven. "I am the Lord. I can help you. Do you believe that?" "Of course," the man replied. "I believe that. I trust in you completely, Lord." Then the voice said, "Then let go, and I will take care of you." The man hung in silence for a moment. Then God said, "Well, what do you say?" The man replied, "I say, is there anyone else up there?" I'm Pastor Bob Miller. Let me add my welcome to all of you who are worshiping together with us, wherever you may be, whether you're here in these physical pews, whether you're watching and worshiping with us live online, or whether you're worshiping with us on demand at a time other than a Sunday morning. We continue our Lenten sermon series that we're calling Life in the Desert, Fidelity to God in Times of Trial. Biblically speaking, the desert, or the wilderness, as it's also often referred to in Scripture, is metaphor for the tough times in our life. They may be times of substantial difficulty, or times of hardship, or heartache. They're times of uncertainty, worry, anxiety, maybe downright fear. And such times can tempt us into thinking or saying or even doing things we wouldn't otherwise do if we were thinking a little straighter. And so often, those things that we're tempted to do are not necessarily in our best interest. All through the series, we've been exploring some desert-related biblical accounts, one being from the book of Exodus and the Israelites' journey through the wilderness, that 40-year wandering in the wilderness. Last week, we looked at the story of one of those times when the Israelites were particularly filled with anxiety and fear, so much so that they fell prey to the temptation of constructing the golden calf, a physical idol that they then worshipped. Which, by the way, went against the very first of God's top-level commandments. Do not worship idols. Worship only me. Which God put before us, not for the purpose of getting us to simply follow some rules, but rather for every reason it is in our best interest to put God first. Amen? Amen. Anyway, let's continue our exploration through Exodus. Follow along. I'm going to read to you from Exodus, this time from chapter 15, verses 1 through 7. The whole Israelite community broke camp and set out from the Sin Desert to continue their journey as the Lord commanded. They set up their camp at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. The people argued with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why are you arguing with me? Why are you testing the Lord?" But the people were very thirsty for water there. And they complained to Moses, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What should I do with these people? They're getting ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people
and take some of Israel's elders with you. Take in your hand the shepherd's rod that you used to strike the Nile River, and go. I'll be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. Hit the rock. Water will come out of it, and the people will be able to drink." Moses did so while Israel's elders watched. He called the place Massah and Meribeth, because the Israelites argued with and tested the Lord, asking, "Is the Lord really with us or not?" Now, I don't know about you, but at first blush, Israel's reaction seemed pretty reasonable to me. I mean, not having water, especially in the desert, is dangerous, to say the least. We humans can only go for just a few days, 3, maybe 4, until death occurs if we don't take in water. So, who wouldn't grumble? But there's more to the story. Because the Israelites are in that desert because God led them there as part of God's promise of delivering them from captivity and bondage in Egypt. And by this time, Israel had seen God deliver on a plethora of promises, all aimed at their well-being. I mean, first off, God made good on God's promise to deliver them from slavery. They are no longer bound in Egypt. Number 2, now we haven't talked about it yet in this series, we're going to, but by this time they had seen God deliver them from Pharaoh's army by parting the Red Sea. They had experienced God giving them manna in the desert to sustain them, to give them sustenance. They had experienced God, God had also made promise to take them to a land of peace, in a land of abundance, or as the Bible calls it, a land flowing with milk and honey. And so Israel had plenty of evidence from the past that God was powerful enough to actually make good on God's promises, and that God was trustworthy enough to come through with them. So what's the difference now? What should make this present situation so worrisome? Because at least from my perspective, this is fundamentally no different than all the other threatening situations that God had delivered them from. But here's the thing. The people didn't stop to think about those past situations or the outcomes from them. They gave no thought to what God had done in the past or to what God had promised to do for them in the future. Actually, I think the heart of the matter is that they did not really trust God. Their lack of water led them to question whether God was really on their side. Again, notice how verse 7 puts it. The Israelites argued with and tested the Lord, asking, "Is the Lord really with us or not?" All that God had done for them in the past didn't matter. All that God had promised to do for them in the future didn't count. All that mattered was the fact that they were frightened now in this present situation. And the fact that they were in this situation was all that was needed for them to come to the conclusion that God could not really be there for them. In other words, they didn't believe first. They wanted proof first. And you see, that's where Moses' comment about testing the Lord, around we're about testing God, comes in. Such lack of belief, such lack of faith, lack of trust effectively puts God to the test of proving again and again God's faithfulness, God's trustworthiness. That So can you see how in their grumbling they were effectively putting God to the test? And therein lies the problem. Okay, so once again, let's fast forward 1,000+ years. And now we're back with Jesus now in the desert for that 40 days and 40 nights when Jesus was being tempted by the devil. Remember, we talked about in last week and the week before how the devil had made 2 attempts to try to trick Jesus into doing something against God. But the devil failed those 2 attempts. But the devil tries it one more time. Follow along as I read from Luke chapter 4. I'm reading verses 9 through 13. The devil brought him into Jerusalem and stood him at the highest point of the temple. He said to him, the devil said to Jesus, "Since you are God's son, throw yourself down from here, for it's written, he will command his angels concerning you to protect you, and they will take you up in their hands so that you won't hit your foot on a stone." Jesus answered, "It's been said, don't test the Lord your God." After finishing every temptation, the devil departed from him until the next opportunity. Just like Israel, 1,000 years earlier, Jesus' circumstances were difficult. After being led into the desert or the wilderness by the Holy Spirit after he was baptized, Jesus faced great hunger. Jesus faced substantial hardship. I mean, I can see how that suggestion from the devil would have looked rather attractive at that point. In fact, it would have categorically proven God's faithfulness. But would it have demonstrated Jesus' faithfulness? No, not really. And in fact, it probably quite the opposite. You see, making God deliver on keeping Jesus from plummeting to his death would effectively be forcing God's hand. Basically making God prove that God was on Jesus' side. But Jesus didn't need to prove anything. Yes, things might have been looking pretty bleak, or at least substantially difficult at that moment, but effectively demanding that God prove God's love for Jesus, for God's Son, was not demonstrating complete and total faith in a totally faithful God. Can you see the connection between this experience with Jesus and the devil and the Israelites 1,000 years earlier? And that's exactly why Jesus answers, "It's been said, don't test the Lord your God." Which actually Jesus, he's actually quoting Deuteronomy. He's quoting a sermon that Moses is giving to the people of Israel, after they've been through this whole experience, to remind them of the stuff that they shouldn't be doing and the stuff that they should be doing. That Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 16, "Don't test the Lord your God the way you frustrated him at Massah." So, what does all that mean for us? What do we do with all this? Well, I think you'll agree. Life is full of ups and downs. I mean, things could be going really good. The road is really smooth, and then giant pothole. One unfortunate step, and we slip down that ravine, heading headfirst to the bottom of that gorge. Or maybe we're walking along and the ground beneath our feet, without warning, all of a sudden gives way. More specifically, maybe the job we thought that was secure evaporates. Maybe a friend or family member in some way inflicts some kind of harm to us or somebody we care about. Maybe someone we were counting on spending the rest of our lives with is no longer there in the picture. It can be a lot of things. But we enter into these times of the desert, and then it's so easy to begin to wonder, can I really trust that God is on my side? Is God really there for me? And then it's only a short hop to say, well, maybe if things get better, maybe then I could substantiate putting my trust in God. But can you see how doing that, saying that, is really putting God to the test as prerequisite for our trust, our belief, our faith? Which, by the way, is not the same thing as asking or praying for things to get better. To ask or to pray for things to get better is actually an act of belief. It's an act of belief that God can make things better and that God will make things such that they are in our better interest. Even if we're not able to really understand how that might be at the time. God has already shown us that God is with us. God has nothing to prove to us. Maybe it's more the other way around. Perhaps it's ours to prove to God that we do indeed trust in him, have faith in him. I mean, absolutely. We can be tempted to doubt God's faithfulness when we're immersed in great difficulty, when times get really hard. But the true Christian walk is truly a walk in faith. And so, my good friends, when facing tough times, maybe really tough times, when we may be tempted to grumble, to complain, to seek other avenues than God, rather than succumb to that temptation, to the temptation of, rather than putting God to the test, let us instead ask God to strengthen our faith. Let us then, in those times when we're beginning to feel that doubt, let us ask God to increase our trust in him. Why? Because God always keeps God's promises and desires for only what is best for us. And trusting means believing that to be the case. Because that is our pathway to peace today, for substantive hope for a better tomorrow, and for assurance in the delivering of living water now and in eternity. May it be so. Amen. Amen.